Stay there. Hang on. This video is going to show you all you need to know about composting, and I use pumpkins to create this beautiful soil. But first I want to say, watch the whole video, because many of you are going to still ask me questions and I'm going to be like, did you watch the video? So go ahead and watch the video so you know how I created this rich, beautiful soil. There are so many different ways to compost. There is just not one way to do things. This is just how I have been composting this past year and a half. I'm actually taking leftover pumpkins that I've cleaned out already, and I've taken them from my neighbors. They just have pumpkins that they were getting ready to throw out. So some of you may say, what a waste. It is not going to be wasted, because this is going to make soil that's going to go back into the garden. However, you can clear out the seeds, and you can eat the seeds, and you can roast them and bake them. You could also make a pumpkin pie, whatever you want to do with the leftovers. This is a lazy compost, so it's just really low maintenance, and that's what I have time to do because I'm a very busy gardener. First, I'm going to show you what your compost can look like once it is fully broken down. I started this compost last year, the same time in November. I just found it harder to turn with larger chunks, and so the more that you can get things broken down before you put it into your compost, the easier it is for turning. But look at that, very enriched soil. That took the year. Yes, is that longer than normal? It depends on how you look at it. I like a lazy compost because I don't have time to continually manage a compost all the time and turning it weekly or bi-weekly. I usually turn it once a month. It's really what I have time to do. But I just wanted you to see what that looks like. There are important things that you need for your compost. So one of the things you need is nitrogen. Nitrogen are your green material, your food scraps, grass clippings, green leaves, anything like that. And a lot here that I have here are pumpkins. And so I'm like, yes, this is going to be really great. That's going to be one of the nitrogens. Another nitrogen that I have is chicken poop. So I actually went to my friend's farm, and I go there about a couple of times a year, and I scoop chicken poop. And I put it into my compost to allow it to break down, because you don't ever want to just put this directly into your garden right away because it may burn your plants. But I put into my compost some kitchen scraps here. You can see I had some green material. And then I have also some lemongrass. It was green. It's starting to turn into brown. I am also going to use some just leftover soil that I had from my garden, just in these pots. And so there's some roots in here as well. There's part of a plant that started to dry out, and so I'm going to use that as well to just kind of help with getting the process started. And then you also need carbon. This was actually a plant. It's fully dried out. This was a thyme plant, my broad thyme, and that's dried out. Here's some of the roots are all dried. I've got lemongrass leaves that are dry, and then also a lot of leaves that have fallen from the trees that I'm using as brown material too. Another brown material that you can use is a cardboard, and you can break it up into small pieces, but I think I have a lot of brown material right now. But if I decide to use this, I may just soak it with water to make it easier to tear apart. This is the bin that I will be using. It is a geo bin, and I will put the link in my description. This is actually my third geo bin. One of them actually did crack, and I truly believe it was a squirrel that came and bit a hole through it. It probably smelled good compost and it broke a hole through it, because it was just a very distinct hole. So it wasn't like the material cracked across or anything like that. It looked like an animal tried digging through and it got through. So over the past month, I just haven't had time to start my compost. So I just started dropping things in here. So there is a lot of nitrogen that's in here. So I really want to get ready to stack this up like a lasagna layer, and I'll explain to you how I'm going to do that. So we just talked about nitrogen and browns. The other two important things are water and air. You want your compost to have some kind of aeration so that it has oxygen, so that it can breathe. It's really important to help in that process of just balancing your compost so that it does not become anaerobic. Now, anaerobic is where there is no flow of that oxygen, or there's not a balance in your compost. Maybe you have too many greens, you have too many food scraps, and then your compost starts to stink. And you don't want a stinky compost. Then you just know it's an indicator that your compost is not balanced. It has become anaerobic. Another thing, you want to mix it, continually mix it to allow that flow of oxygen to go through. The other thing is water. Water really helps with moisturizing that compost so that it can start activating and really start helping in the decomposition process. If you don't add any water, or if it's not raining on it, then it just stays dry and you really don't see the materials start breaking down. That water does really help. And then the other beautiful thing about composting naturally is that your natural, lovely insects start crawling into there and start doing their things. You may start noticing pill bugs coming in and breaking things down. Is there something wrong with my compost? No, nothing's wrong with the compost. It is doing its thing. And you'll see worms going through there and digging through. I remember over the winter time when I did this lazy compost, I hadn't been mixing it, like I said, a lazy gardener. I didn't mix it that much. And then in the winter, it was just so cold. There was just no possible way I was going in and mixing it when it was out in the snow. But I remember one time going there where it was just a nicer day, things started melting. And so I started digging through and I saw these jumbo worms in there, and they were just like doing their thing, but they were breaking it down. And once it broke down, they were gone. And so you do want to attract these kinds of things into your compost. Another thing that you might notice are the black soldier flies. Those black soldier flies look kind of intimidating because you're like, what is this big, huge fly that's in my compost? Is there something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. They are attracted to it and they're going to lay little larvae in there and they're going to look like maggots. And you may see maggots in there. Now, sometimes it can get out of control because the black soldier flies might like it just a little too much and lay a whole bunch. But if you notice that there's too many of them, you will notice that your compost is just staying too wet, too moist. You can actually hear the larva, if you have a lot of it, just crackling like pieces of paper. And so what you can do is to help balance it out, make it less moisture, just kind of dry it up, put more carbon materials in there to kind of balance it and dry it out. It's a really cool thing. So if you have not composted, do something really simple. The other thing you want to consider when you compost is the size of your compost. So to really get a compost warm and to really get that environment going, you really need a large space. So this compost bin, which I mentioned is a geo bin, which I will put the description below. So make sure that you check it out. I purchased this offline and I paid about $38 for it. A lot of compost bins and things like that cost a lot of money and over 100 and something. I just didn't want to pay that much because I knew I was going to compost a lot. And so I wanted something that was pretty wide. So this is about, I believe it's about 4x4, 3x3 or a 4x4 size compost. And so you want at least about a 3x3, 4x4 size compost so that you have enough material that you can have in there that can really do what it needs to do. Even if I fill this to the top, and which I did last year, really high, it's gonna sink down as it's breaking down. It's gonna sink down lower. So I'm gonna fill it all up, but by the time next year, as you saw the compost, I did use some of the compost that I showed you over here, but I took some of it maybe like a month ago and used it, but still it just shrunk down a lot because all of those organic materials were broken down. So now that I mentioned everything that is needed in your compost, I'm gonna go ahead and start filling up my compost. And the way that I'm gonna do it is quite interesting. It's because it's gonna be like a lasagna layer. So I might add a little bit of brown material first, and then I'm gonna add some pumpkins. And then I'm gonna add maybe some more brown material. And then I'm gonna add some chicken poop. And then I'm just gonna go back and forth like that, bring in a layer so that it's all mixed up with those different layers of organic materials throughout the entire compost so that throughout the winter months, it has all that it needs as it continually breaks down. And then I will water it through that process as well. All right, so let's get started. I won't show the entire thing, but you've got the concept and you'll see a little bit of the layers that I will be putting down, and then we can talk about it after. First thing I'm gonna do is add in some water just to get this wet a little bit, to moisturize it, because I had not added any water into it. I'm gonna add a little bit of layer of the soil from one of these pots that I had. Just kind of help get that going. Adding a little bit of already some kind of soil. And this actually was a mixture of soil and compost. And what you're seeing around there as well are just dry leaves from lemongrass. They could have been broken down more, but I've got some other lemongrass that I use that I just broke down and chopped it up a little bit more. I'm gonna go and add some brown material. This smells so good. It was just my thyme leaves, so ooh, that smells really good. Nice little scent. This was basically the roots to it. So you can see that it's all dry. It's all brown material. I'm gonna add some leaves in here. Like I mentioned, you wanna have more brown than nitrogen, just so that it doesn't get anaerobic or really smell. It just helps to balance it out. I have a lot of leaves. Go ahead and water it down. On the second layer, I'm gonna add in some pumpkin, some chicken poop, soil, if you have any, and just use whatever materials you have. If you don't have any, it's okay. Just use what you do have. Got some lemongrass brown material that I kind of chopped down with the lawnmower. Now, I had not added lemongrass leaves like this, so I hope it does break down well, but so this is my experiment adding it. So we'll see how it breaks down next year. I'll be interested to see if these little insects are able to break this material down. I'm noticing I'm adding more brown materials as I do these layers. And then water it down. At this moment, I'm going to finish adding the layers to this compost and show you what it looks like after, once I am done. It's actually been a week later. It got too late when I was recording, so I had to come back, and I finally had a time a week later to show you the final result of the compost. But it has already went down tremendously. I actually filled it up to here, and it's now down to here. So come on and check it out. If you take a look over here, it was up to here, and it already went down to here, so it's already starting to break down. I put layers of the water in there, all of the layers that I told you that's in here, it's in here, and it's doing well so far. And look at that, it just went down tremendously already. I could actually add in some more browns, and I'm planning on doing that, adding some more leaves, since it went down tremendously a lot, because I had a lot of nitrogen in here, and I just want to make sure that there's a good balance of brown with the nitrogen material. But here we go, in the geo bin. Compost, compost, compost. That's all I can say. It is so beneficial if you are starting to garden, or if you garden, compost, because you can put this organic material into your gardens, and it's very beneficial. That's what I've been doing, and I've enjoyed it, and you get really rich soil. Need I say any more? So make sure that you compost. And if you don't have any organic material like leaves and things like that, just go ask your neighbors. Go rake their yard and you know, go and get some organic material from them. If you need nitrogen, you need more of it, you don't have enough food scraps or something like that, go and get some coffee grounds from a local coffee place. You can add that's nitrogen, into your compost as well. But just get started, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Leave any comments. Love to engage with this gardening community. But remember to grow your foods, eat, and take care of yourself. Some self-care. Remember to grow leafy, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.